Los Angeles, 1947. The city glittered with neon signs, movie premieres, and hopeful dreamers chasing stardom. But beneath the glamour, crime and corruption lurked in the shadows. It was in this city of illusions that one of the most gruesome and enduring mysteries would unfold: the Black Dahlia murder. It was an ordinary morning in a quiet Los Angeles suburb. The date was January 15, 1947. The air was crisp, the sky was a perfect cloudless blue. In the peaceful Limert Park neighborhood, a mother named Betty Bersinger was enjoying a leisurely stroll with her 3-year-old daughter. They were headed toward a shoe repair shop, their path taking them past a vacant lot on South Norton Avenue. The lot was overgrown with weeds and littered with trash, but nothing about it seemed out of the ordinary. As they drew closer, however, Betty noticed something strange. A figure lay in the grass, cut in half at the waist. At first glance it appeared to be a mannequin, a macabre and disturbing joke. The two halves were placed about a foot apart, her hands above her head, her legs spread in an almost theatrical pose. A horrifying stillness hung in the air. As Betty's eyes adjusted, the truth slammed into her with the force of a physical blow. This was no mannequin, this was a human being. The skin was unnaturally pale, drained of all color. But what was most shocking, most grotesque of all, was the expression on the woman's face. A chilling, ghoulish Glasgow smile had been carved into her cheeks, from the corners of her mouth to her ears, a grotesque caricature of a grin. Terrified, Betty snatched up her daughter and ran to the nearest house, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Police arrived to find a scene unlike any they had ever encountered. The body was completely devoid of blood. Every drop had been meticulously drained from her system, a chilling detail that suggested her murder had taken place hours before, at a different location. The body had been washed clean and then posed with a chilling artistic precision. The killer wasn't just a murderer, he was a perpetrator of theater, and this was his opening act. In the hours following the discovery, the young woman was identified by her fingerprints. She was Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old from Medford, Massachusetts. The press, sensing a sensational story, immediately began to spin a narrative. They seized upon a rumor that Elizabeth had often worn sheer black dresses and had a certain mysterious allure. They christened her the Black Dahlia, a nod to the popular film noir The Blue Dahlia, and a title that would forever be attached to her tragic story. But Elizabeth Short was more than a headline. She was a dreamer, a restless soul who had left her home in search of something more. She was known to be a kind person, albeit with a reputation for a free spirit. Elizabeth had a difficult childhood and a complex family life. She had a penchant for traveling, drifting from her family's home in Florida to the West Coast, seeking the glamour of Hollywood. She had a string of boyfriends and male acquaintances but never seemed to settle down, always moving on to the next temporary living arrangement. The last days of her life were a tragic mystery. She was last seen on January 9th, checking out of the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She had plans to meet with her sister in Boston and was said to be waiting for a ride. Her movements in the following 6 days are a blank space, a terrifying chasm between life and death. Elizabeth Short had vanished into the sprawling, anonymous city, a vulnerable girl swallowed whole by the very dream she had come to pursue. Elizabeth Short's life had been marked by hardship. Her father abandoned the family during the Great Depression. In Hollywood, Elizabeth pursued small modeling gigs and dreamed of breaking into films. She became known in bars, nightclubs, and among men who promised opportunities but delivered little more than fleeting attention. The murder of the Black Dahlia didn't just shock the city, it ignited a media frenzy that was unprecedented for its time. Two rival newspapers, the Los Angeles Examiner and the Herald Express, were locked in a vicious circulation war. The story of the Black Dahlia was their weapon of choice. They published every detail, every rumor, and every gruesome photograph they could get their hands on, turning Elizabeth Short's death into a citywide spectacle. And the killer seemed to enjoy the attention. A week after the body was found, a package arrived at the Examiner's office. It was addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers. Inside were Elizabeth Short's most personal belongings, her social security card, her birth certificate, dozens of photographs, and her address book with several pages torn out. Every single item had been wiped clean with gasoline, a calculated act to destroy any possible fingerprints. The police were swamped. Over 750 detectives were assigned to the case, yet leads were non-existent. The public, whipped into a frenzy by the newspapers, began to descend into a bizarre state of fear and morbid curiosity. Dozens of people came forward to confess to the crime, each one more unbelievable than the last. The investigation became a circus, and every potential lead led to a dead end, leaving the city to wonder if the killer was simply toying with them all. Dozens of men fell under suspicion. A local doctor with a dark reputation, a nightclub owner with connections to crime, a former boyfriend who couldn't let go. At one point, more than 60 people even falsely confessed to the murder. The truth remained buried beneath rumor and lies. The press turned Elizabeth into both victim and villain. Stories painted her as a tragic ingenue or a reckless party girl. The sensationalism blurred fact from fiction. While the media fed on scandal, the real killer remained free. For decades, the murder of Elizabeth Short haunted Los Angeles. Writers, filmmakers, and conspiracy theorists all tried to explain what happened. Some claimed the killing bore signs of a medical professional, someone skilled with a scalpel. Others whispered about secret Hollywood parties, cover-ups, and sinister networks. In the decades since, the list of suspects has grown long and convoluted. The police questioned everyone from jilted lovers to transient servicemen, but no one was ever charged. The most compelling and arguably most terrifying suspect emerged years later, proposed by his own son. The man was Dr. George Hodel, a prominent Los Angeles physician with connections to the Hollywood elite. Hodel's son, Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD homicide detective, began to investigate his father and was stunned by what he found. George Hodel was a known surrealist art enthusiast, and his home, known as the Sowden House, bore a striking resemblance to the crime scene, with its architectural lines and shadows. The way Elizabeth Short's body was bisected was a classic technique in surrealist art, known as dismemberment. The final damning piece of evidence was an audio recording Steve made of his father, in which the older Hodel seemingly confessed to the murder in a muffled whisper, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia." Despite this compelling evidence, George Hodel was never officially charged. The case remains a cold file, a permanent stain on the LAPD's history. Was the killer a prominent doctor, a sadistic psychopath, or someone else entirely? The truth remains lost to time, a ghost haunting the city of Los Angeles. The case of the Black Dahlia endures not just as a cold case but as a chilling reminder of Hollywood's dark underbelly and the vulnerability of those who chase its dazzling lights. It is a story of a young woman who went looking for a dream and found a nightmare.